All I needed for a winning week with my best bets for what feels like the first time in forever, yes, that's a Frozen reference, was BYU to cover late on Saturday night on the road at Colorado, -6.5. Now, they won the game. It wasn't exactly what BYU was looking for in this spot. They trailed 14-3 after the first quarter, which was odd. And also, to me, confirmed the massive mistake that Deion Sanders made in benching Caden Salter so early. Not that his numbers wound up being spectacularly good, but for BYU to have been down 14-3 there is representative of the fact that, yeah, Salter's the most capable guy in the room. I never thought he was great. I also didn't think he should have been benched just because of the Georgia Tech game, and he kind of was. And now they're back to him, and they almost picked up a really good win. BYU, on the other hand, almost suffered what would have been a pretty bad loss, and they found a way. Good teams find a way. But on my 5-point scale to assess how fans should feel after the game, this is no vibes for BYU. This is, okay, we didn't lose. At least there's that. Let's bury let's just go on. You got to just find a way. Late night, on the road, conference game, never easy. All right, just find a way to win. Now, BYU ran for over 200 yards in this game. That was one of the reasons I thought they would win comfortably, and it wasn't comfortable at all. And they had to come back. Now, it's a good sign for the Cougars that they were able to go on the road and come back in this spot, because when you think about a team that is really driven by its defense and being good at situational football and running it pretty well, and the offense is, just solid across the board, you don't think about a team that is built to come back from a deficit, but they did. They did. On the road, no less, in case I haven't mentioned that enough. So BYU wins the game 24-21. Later this week, you're going to see my first ever top 25 in college football. I don't know that I'm going to put BYU or Utah in it yet, because a significant portion of what I'm measuring to put a team inside the top 25 and what I think AP voters in the College Football Playoff Committee should value as well, and I think to an extent they do, not every voter is the same, is what have you accomplished up to that point? Not just what did we think of you before the season based on last season's results and the offseason that you had, but what have you actually done? If you look at BYU's schedule right now, it's pretty unimpressive. And the Cougars, going forward, could mess around and go to the Big 12 championship game. This is among the most wide open conferences in the country. Now, the SEC also looks incredibly wide open, and there's no clear favorite in the SEC. I don't think there's a clear favorite in the Big 12. Texas Tech is certainly number one. Do they feel like they're completely on another level? It's too early. The one game against Utah, yep, really impressive, because Utah, as West Virginia learned, is still a good football team. But BYU's schedule this year is a dominant win against Portland State, that is a bad FCS program, a dominant win against Stanford, who's whatever in the ACC, bottom tier, a comfortable win at East Carolina, and an uncomfortable win at Colorado, who I'm not that high on. So I'll just tell you right now, BYU will not be in my top 25 when it releases later this week. That can change. That can always change going forward. If you're one of those, it doesn't matter, the polls, it's too early in the season, hard to argue with that. If that's what your mindset is, I'm just not going to try and change your mind. I know what the value of the polls is on a weekly basis, but once they play at Arizona, I think we'll have a better idea. Now, Arizona didn't have a very good weekend either. They had a big opportunity, and Iowa State reminded us, oh, yep, the Cyclones are indeed a Big 12 championship contender, because I watched them go to the Big 12 championship game last year, and I think they have a lot of the same traits of last year's team. And in fact, I know that they do, because they have a lot of the same players from last year's team. So for the Big 12, I don't think there's a team that's widely separated. As much as I like Texas Tech, I would still have them power rated number one. And for those watching on YouTube, I'll throw up my preseason power rankings, which are just that. Preseason power rankings: Texas Tech, Arizona State, Kansas State, Iowa State, and Baylor at 5. I have BYU too low, probably at 10, but everything else I feel pretty good about, quite frankly. I mean, Kansas State, of course, is hey, Kansas State won over the weekend. Let's give Kansas State their flowers. They beat UCF. Woo! Woo! Yeah, Kansas State. I mean, if they go on an improbable run, sure, Kansas State could go to the Big 12 championship game. I just don't see that happening with the caliber of football they're playing. But, across the league, what we're seeing that makes the conference so much fun is also kind of the drawback of something I've discussed with this conference for quite a while. Going back to when this channel first became Locked On College Football in January of 2024. That the Big 12, looks like a one-bid league. I haven't come off of that stance yet because Arizona State, I thought they would, picked up a win against TCU. Arizona State is not going unbeaten in conference play. They just aren't. They have won by the exact same score to begin league play, 27-24. They play at Utah next week. I like Utah in that spot. Even though the last time I picked Utah to win a home game, it didn't go particularly well. But they've still got to play Texas Tech. They've still got to play Iowa State. And then they've got the duel in the desert to end the regular season as well. I'm at a point with Arizona State right now where I like them. I don't love them. The only team in the Big 12 I could say I love is Texas Tech. I like Iowa State. I'm still... And I liked what I saw against Arizona. That is a good vibes win because Arizona has been playing some good ball. But there's just all this kind of middling play in the Big 12. It's okay. BYU goes and struggles to a win at Colorado. All right, you get the outcome you're looking for. But are you feeling ecstatic with the way that they played? No, you're just happy that they avoided a disaster. And TCU had a chance because they were in the top 25, I think deservedly so, and Arizona State should be back in there now. But, Houston was on the road Friday night at a bad Oregon State team and should have lost, but the Beavers are literally incapable of snapping the ball and kicking it in a number of capacities without a complete and utter disaster occurring. That's just not something that they can do. So I like Houston, but it's okay. I like BYU, but it's okay. I like Utah, but the Texas Tech game happened. I like Iowa State, and that's just kind of the common theme going up and down the league. Baylor beat Oklahoma State, and Utah blew out West Virginia, and Iowa State beat Arizona comfortably. And I just don't see anybody right now that has really elevated themselves to Texas Tech's level. I feel confident in the Red Raiders' ability to go to the Big 12 championship game. I predicted them to make it there before this season started. I don't feel great because that's the only signature performance that I've seen in the conference so far. And don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying watching that. I'm not going to stop watching the Big 12 because, they're only going to get one team into the playoff. I have no idea who that team is going to be. No idea. Absolutely no clue. Yeah, Texas Tech is the favorite right now. We're 4 or 5 games into the season, depending on whether you've had a bye week or not. There's still an eternity of college football to be played. And in this conference in particular, I think we're going to be in a very similar spot as last season. By the way, I don't know if there was a bigger loser in the Big 12 over the weekend than Kansas. Kansas 1-1 in the Big 12 because they blew a late lead to Cincinnati at home. To Cincinnati? Oh, man. Look, it's one thing to be on the road at Missouri, who I think is a really good team, and to have had the early lead and fail to finish the job in Columbia. That's one thing. But, man, at home, your defense falling apart. Kansas, another team that I can see making the Big 12 championship game, probably not with an early loss to Cincinnati. They play UCF on the road this week. They should win that game. They've still got to play Texas Tech. They've still got to play at Iowa State. They still have to play Utah. So this league is just like the old Pac-12, frankly. They're just cannibalizing themselves. They're just beating up on one another over and over and over again. And so far, I have not been overly impressed with anyone outside of the Texas Tech one game, and I wonder about Baron Morton's health going forward and whether Hammond can just be that guy that he was on that particular day throughout the course of the season. Maybe he's that dude. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the Big 12 from this past week. Fun league. It's just kind of, it's just, I can't quite put my finger on it. It's just like there's just a lot of fun football that you know in the back of your mind. Don't know how. Like Arizona State's 2-0 in Big 12 play. They don't feel super sustainable right now. They really, really don't. They have got to figure out how to get off to a better start. But, Colorado or TCU, one of those teams will get their first Big 12 win this weekend. I think the game of the week in the Big 12, they'll talk about later this week, is Texas Tech and Houston. I think that's a really fun matchup. That's Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. So